And they wouldn't let it go.
Well, that was Paul Whelan back on American soil, along with 3 other American hostages and prisoners held in Russia. And it's a big day for those people, their families, and quite an instructive day for, I think, Americans who are contemplating going overseas to hostile countries, isn't it? Holy cow. Welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. That's a great way to start a Feel Good Friday. Hope you have your red on. Hannah has her red on over there. John has his red on.
You better believe it, rocking my Red Birds red.
Oh, yeah. And Stephanie, we hope, has her red on wherever she's at on assignment.
She does.
Yeah, she had a big night last night. Did you see where she was?
Oh, she was at a concert,
She went to that big Morgan Wallen concert at Arrowhead.
He's a big country guy, right?
Yes.
Is he the guy that threw the chair off the top of the thing? And
Yeah, he is.
He has his moments.
Yeah.
That guy?
Yeah, that guy.
All right, it's a Feel Good Friday, and the weekend is here. You know, the weather is, at least the temperatures, they're going to be in the low 90s, not the high 90s. That's a moderation tomorrow and Sunday, and it will be sunny, so that's good. Hope you get out your sunscreen. Tonight will be clear. Out the door this morning, it's 88. It's not 88 yet. It's 75 out there, I think, now. And a little drier this morning, at least. I mean, it's been really... humid like crazy. And
nuts, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think we can take the heat or the humidity, but not both. Give me a cool, rainy day or a hot, dry day, but I don't know that I like the hot, rainy, or almost wants to rain day, right? Where the dew point is like equal to the temperature.
Well, I'm glad it's
August in mid-Missouri.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm glad it's cooled down just a little bit because we're going to party it up in Jeff City tomorrow night.
Yeah. We got Piccadilly tomorrow night, right, John?
That's the plan, the
You guys
Piccadilly event.
You guys got your pink picked out?
You know, I don't know what to do. I have a long sleeve button down pink Oxford shirt.
There you go.
You could always roll it, kind of cuff it right at your elbows or something.
And I realized
that's in. That's hip.
But I have a real problem. It has I just realized, I looked at it yesterday afternoon. It has a like a pen mark I can't get out of it. I've washed it 4 times. I can't get out of it.
Nobody's going to notice. Not unless you go around saying, hey, look at this pin mark.
Bothers me right over.
Put your Wake Up Mid-Missouri magnetic name badge over it.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
There you go. That's the answer. That's what I'll do. All right. Well, we hope everyone's going to have a good weekend, and it is going to be something to celebrate for Ivan Gerskovich. He's the Wall Street Journal reporter. Paul Whelan, of course. That clip we played was Paul Whelan. Can you believe that? I mean, he was accused of being a general for the CIA. Does that make sense, Brian? I don't think that they don't have a rank of general in the CIA, do they?
I think some of these guys who are accused of being spies with their longtime military background protest too much, but we're glad that they're all back home.
Yeah, so it's really good. And it's interesting. You do not hear too much about the people that were released in their behalf, right? That worries me slightly.
One was a hitman who'd been convicted of killing somebody.
Yeah. And the other, I guess, were more minor players. But what kind of a precedent does this set? And what does this mean for those of us that do travel abroad? You know, I mean, now and then. I rarely go abroad. I mean, if we go every couple of years, maybe we go diving down to, Cozumel or something. But if you're going over to Europe, Europe's a different place. I heard a podcast that, what is it, like it's predicted in a few years, 25, maybe it was today, but 25% of the UK population is now Muslim, or will be very, very shortly because of the, and so you have these changing dynamics in Western Europe and Eastern Europe, certainly in the countries to which we're hostile with, but now they are gaining more traction in influence in governments that formerly used to be friendly.
Germany and the Netherlands and France and all. Yeah, big time.
Well, Randy, I will remind you, you are going overseas next month.
I am. Late September. Yeah, we're going to be heading out with a bunch of our family over to Switzerland and Austria and a little sojourn up into Germany as well. So that'll be a lot of fun.
So while you're there, I need you to try really hard not to be detained.
I guess I'll have to just, I don't know, drink a lot of beer, eat some pretzels, and a lot of sausage, right? I mean, that's what they do over there, cheese.
Look over your shoulder on a regular basis. Huh? Keep Uncle Scotty between you and the bad guys.
There you go. Uncle Scotty, he'll protect me. I'll get an introduction to country music with Uncle Scotty, won't I? I mean, I'm not really a country music
Oh, he knows
guy.
Morgan Wallen personally. I think they share the same pair of whiskey glasses, right?
Oh, boy.
I don't know. The most I personally delved into country music was Martina McBride did a fundraiser for one of the hospitals I was at long time ago. But remember Martina
That's
McBride?
pretty cool. Gosh, she was a superstar.
Yeah,
back
she
in
was,
that
and it was
era.
and boy, what a fabulous performer.
She's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. That's interesting. What has happened to a couple of singers come to mind? I don't know why, just random thoughts here. Is Martina sort of retired? Is she still performing? Is she still doing
Yeah,
stuff?
she's kind of an elder statesman of country music at this stage of the game. I don't know if she still tours or not.
Okay, and then on the pop scene, what is going on with Celine Dion? What has happened to her? She was recovering from this stiff person syndrome, and
Well, do you ever recover from it? I don't think so.
Well,
Isn't
I
it
think you
Performed at the
degenerative?
Olympics, though.
yeah. Did she perform, or did she perform? I didn't see it. If she did, will she? Did she? Has she? I don't know. But you wonder about these stars of the past. I mean, sometimes you see them on the minor travel circuit. You know, they're not the biggest venues, but they go around. Well, I think about that. We saw here in Columbia, they have a great series at the auditorium there. What's that called? What's that hall called? Jesse Hall? Is
Jesse
that
Hall?
what,
Yeah.
where we went. They have a performing series there every year, and we saw the Manhattan Transfer on their last. It was their 50th anniversary tour. Unbelievable, and we saw them. We've seen some other great groups out there. So, and that might be considered sort of a minor tour venue, but it certainly has brought in some good names. You know,
Missouri Theater in Columbia
And the Missouri
also
Theater.
had some pretty good names come through as well.
Yes, sir. And it's great to catch these people because, man, you realize greatness when they're in their 60s and they're performing like they were in their 40s or 30s or whatever, you know, and it's just amazing. Well, Brian Hauswirth joins us now, and he's going to be going back to school and buying some sales tax exempt school supplies, right, Brian? Is that the case?
You know, I'll tell you, I probably will end up getting some clothes, but I think the biggest thing I think the biggest thing, and we have to have fun with it, of course. But Randy, I think the biggest thing for people to remember is you don't have to be a student or a student's parent to participate. So this affects everybody. What I've done is I've linked to the actual DOR website on KWS.com and 939theeagle.com, and basically what you can do is see in there. But I can tell you it's pretty much all clothing, shoes, computers, school supplies. Bottom line, if you need to buy a computer, and you're going to do it in the future, you probably want to do it this weekend. We've got some taxing jurisdictions, folks, that have a sales tax of around 10% when you add everything up. And you don't have to worry about that this weekend. So you potentially could be saving a lot of money. This is a bipartisan bill that was signed by Governor Bob Holden in 2004. Democrat, and he was joined at the time by Speaker Catherine Hanaway and Peter Kinder of Cape Girardeau. Not 200 years ago, 20 years ago. Wow. And they actually got things done, and they didn't agree on a lot of stuff, but they passed a lot more bills than people would realize, and they had a divided government, a Democratic governor with a Republican legislature. This was a landmark piece of legislation, and pretty significant, I think.
We like to remind people every year, right, Brian, that this doesn't mean you will pay zero sales taxes. Many of the counties in mid-Missouri have opted out of the holiday, so you won't have to pay the state sales tax, but Boone, Cole, Callaway, you'll have to pay the local sales tax.
And here's what gets confusing on that, John. Up until this year, absolutely, but this year they tweaked the law, and it was barely covered in the news media, barely got any attention at the Capitol, but this year they have exempted the local tax. But you're exactly right. For 19 years, you had to pay that, and they tweaked it. So, no, you don't have to do it this year.
You mean those good Republicans didn't recognize local control? Think about that politically. Isn't that interesting?
No, and it was caught up in an omnibus bill, but no, the DOR link in my story kind of links to that. And John is absolutely right. For years you had to pay local. Now you still got to pay for the cost of the item, but every bit adds up, especially when
you're talking 10% total. That's big savings.
It really is. So that's what's going on.
If you're enjoying the tax-free weekend in Jefferson City tomorrow, at Hy-Vee. Some of our friends here at Zimmer will be out front taking school supply donations. We're doing a Gear Up for Grades school supply drive, collecting school supplies for local students in mid-Mo. So they will be there from 10 to 2 collecting donations. And I mean, your money's going to go a little farther this weekend with no sales tax. So what a great time to help out some local kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be mentioning that several times, Hannah, on our newscasts. I believe Cat's going to be down there, and Y107 from Zimmer, Cat Country for sure. And you know, every it's going to affect not just children in Columbia, but children in Jefferson City. So
do you have to show evidence of being a student or a parent of a student?
No.
What an idiot I am. I needed a card reader, a CD-ROM reader for my computer, and I went and bought it last week at Best Buy. And
if you got the receipt, you should be able to take that in. Now it depends on
I paid but that was last week.
You should.
What do I do? Return it and then rebuy it? I'm not going to do that.
But you might ask them. It's in my story. I think it's extreme. I do think if you're for all the reporters out there, no question, it's the Missouri sales tax holiday. But you have to include in your copy. You have to include that it does not apply. You don't have to be a student. You have to include that, because otherwise, if you hear that, you're going to think you have to be a student. You do not.
Something, yeah.
They specifically, when Governor Holden signed the bill, that was the whole thing that he talked about. So no, you can go and buy a computer tomorrow. You could buy whatever you want.
Even if we did, I would claim I was a student of popular culture and all things Stanley Cup. And
continuing education in the medical
it's
field.
Ongoing continuing education. That's right. Hey, well, this is good news. And all state and local taxes. That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. And 20-year anniversary today. Bob Holden, Catherine Hanaway, and a guy named Peter Kinder.
Well, those Democrats.
Release the money, Governor.
Those Democrats
Pennsylvania. Republican Senator Josh Hawley says he's heard from a whistleblower, and this is very disturbing. The senator summarized this on X, writing, quote, "Whistleblower tells me Secret Service Acting Director Rowe personally directed cuts to the Secret Service agents who do threat assessments for events. Whistleblower says those agents were not present in Butler. We brought that allegation to the Secret Service, who told us, quote, we respect the senator and the role of oversight and will respond to the request through official channels."
Bombshell information this morning. It's time for the Daily DC Rundown with John Marsh.
Yeah, that's kind of the interesting one. We sort of heard some of that during the actual grilling on Capitol Hill between the lawmakers and the Secret Service director at the time, who promptly stepped down. Now they're saying, Josh Hawley's question basically was, did they drop the threat assessment and all because it was a former president and it wasn't the current president and all? So now we're caught up in that one on Capitol Hill to see where that all goes. And sort of a sidebar story, Josh Shapiro's advisors debated the early seconds of his first ad of the 2022 Pennsylvania governor campaign. Comes out now he was going to start by saying that he makes sure he's home every Friday night for dinner with his family. But should his script call it Shabbat dinner, and should the shot of the table show a challah bread? They said the last time a guy named Shapiro had been elected governor of Pennsylvania, a Jew, he had years earlier anglicized his name to Shop. And now when he's one of the highly talked about individuals for a potential Kamala Harris VP, there's kind of two sides of the aisle weighing in on him, the ones who love him and the ones that don't.
I tell you, it's getting interesting. I heard he canceled, I think, some campaign stops over the weekend or tomorrow. Shapiro did. So I think, I guess the focus has switched from Mark Kelly to Shapiro now. It's going to be interesting to see.
J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, who's also Jewish, who's been through a couple rounds of vetting interviews with Harris's people as well. And boy, I don't know. Just from a protection standpoint, you have to worry about all the anti-Semitism that cycles around and these people and their personal security details.
You're right. And we've seen what the anti-Semitic, anti-Zionist, anti-Israeli folks have been about and what they'll go to on our college campuses. I mean, you can't. Do you think it's limited to just those young skulls full of mush? No. You would be foolish to think that. But I've heard, John, early on and after the assassination attempt, when they were talking about differential forces for, current versus past presidents, that apparently is policy. I remember early on, that's what was being reported. That's been policy. So maybe that's
won the bronze. For Biles, it is her 6th Olympic gold and her 9th medal overall. The United States has now won the all-around competition 6 straight times. In the pool, Katie Ledecky helped the U.S. team to a silver medal in the 4x200 freestyle meter relay for her 13th Olympic medal, which makes her the most decorated American woman in Olympic history.
Well, the Americans are doing quite well on the gym mat and at the pool. Simone Biles just, really hitting all 8 cylinders. Isn't she so great to see after she had the twisties in the last Olympics? And she's been injured. We talked a little bit about that, Hannah. It's great to see, man, you talk about resilience, coming back and just knocking it out of the park. It's great.
Well, and this is very in the weeds, but it's something that kind of popped off on social media when the USA gymnastics team was announced a month or so ago. One of the girls who had been on the team previously and sort of got canceled for making some racist remarks, and of course, it came out that she was a Trump supporter, and, the media doesn't like that, whatever. So she's kind of a scorned ex-USA gymnast. And she had lots to say about USA Gymnastics when the new team was announced a couple months ago. And basically caused, beef with all the girls that are on the team now. And when Simone Biles posted a photo of the team with their, team gold medals, she captioned it. It was a quote from one of the other girls' live video rants that she did. And it was something about lazy, washed up, no good gymnasts or something. And that's what Simone captioned their podium picture with, all of them holding their gold medals.
Oh, boy.
So talk about getting even on that one.
That's competition in a different level. And she pulled out her, I didn't know this was something, one of her brands, but she had a big goat medal, greatest of all time, right? A big, a pendant that she has?
Yeah, it's more of a necklace, I would call it, with a charm on it.
I'm bragging if you can do it.
Yeah.
Well, and, your audio mentioned Katie Ledecky.
Yes.
Did you happen to see the highlights from her 1,500-meter swim?
Is that the one where she won by 10 seconds?
Yeah, they had to pan the camera back because there was nobody else in the frame.
Well, she won by, 17.8 seconds.
17 seconds. Okay,
yes,
yeah.
So she almost lapped the other swimmers.
Wow.
A lady from China came in second, and she was almost 18 whole seconds in front of her.
It's just amazing.
Katie now has 13 gold medals all time.
Well, earlier in the week, she got a bronze medal, and everyone was kind of whoa, Katie.
Yeah, she took silver in one of the relays. The relay team took a silver.
Well, she got bronze during the women's 400-meter race as well. So folks were kind of going, that's not like Katie Ledecky. That's a bad day for Katie Ledecky to get a bronze medal.
And she's no spring chicken Olympic athlete-wise, right? I mean, was she 27 or something?
I think people were surprised that she announced, or when she announced that she was going to compete in these games. Because, you're right. A little older. She's, 27. And, I mean, obviously that's not old, but when you're talking about these elite athletes and all of the stress that they put on their body over the years and all the training that they do, I'm sure that she's probably not feeling like a spring chicken.
Sounds pretty young to me. How about you, John?
Yeah, no kidding. She's a big girl, too. She's 6 foot something, isn't she?
Yeah.
You know what I get a kick out of is just looking at the office, not on, we usually eventually at some point in evaluation do a little body fat monitor thing. It's just a little bioimpedance monitor that we use. No, it's not a fancy DEXA scan with high tech, but it gives you an idea body fat wise. And I think I'll bet if we measured that the body fat on these swimmers, it would probably, and the long distance runners and the gymnasts, it may short out. I think it would probably just go,
you'd have to go back to the old calipers.
and the funny thing is, if you measured the body mass index on these people, like weight over meter squared, it's kilogram per meter squared, they would probably be considered overweight by a BMI standard, but it's all muscle. It's all muscle.
She's what? She's over 160 pounds or something, I think they said, and but it's muscle.
Yeah.
Right, like Alona Marr that I've been gushing over all week, the women's rugby player.
Yeah.
That helped her team earn a bronze medal. She's sort of being hailed online as, bringing all this attention to the women's rugby program.
Yeah.
And they've gotten some pretty big time donations from folks who want to invest in the program and help grow it. But she's also an influencer, and she's reached, I think, 21 million followers on Instagram this week. But she has a video that she did right before the Olympics, and someone had commented on her video trying to make a jab at what her BMI probably is. Mm-hmm. They said, your BMI is probably 30 or something. And she goes, yeah, you're actually not that far off, but I'm also over 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
And I'm an athlete. And if you look at photos of Alana, she's ripped, right? And so if you're just looking at height and weight, she's like, yeah, my BMI is higher than you would think. But, look at what makes up all that weight.
Right. So, that one number doesn't tell all.
Yeah, you want to get on the pitch with me?
Did the men's rugby team do well, too? Did I read that? I think they, if I'm not mistaken.
I haven't heard. To be honest, and I was going to make this point a little later, but we're here. And maybe it's just because I live in my own bubble, I'm only really hearing about the women this go around. I don't know if anyone else can relate. We're hearing about Simone Biles.
The male gymnasts have had a pretty good showing for the U.S.
We're hearing about Simone Biles, Suni Lee, who's also a gymnast. We're hearing about Katie Ledecky, Alona Marr.
Well, didn't one of our swimmers, male swimmer, didn't he leave someone in his wake? Or was that? No, that was the Italian guy. Yeah, I don't know. Our guy came in second, I think.
To me, it seems like the women are making headlines more. Yeah. Well, not necessarily because the guys aren't winning, but I like that.
Hey, we lead the medal count. 38 medals. And pretty 9 of them gold.
I guess for me, though, I like that female athletes are sort of, leading the headlines.
You betcha. And pretty soon we'll have a female president. So it's going to really be a girl power thing here very soon.
Well, on
Spice Girls reference.
No, I'm very serious. I think it might happen looking at the tea leaves here, the way things are going out. I mean, the media is absolutely buying hook, line, and sinker the flip-flop on how many policy matters now, John. Is it 6, 7, 8? Everything. She's running as a Republican now. She's tough on borders. She's going to fight inflation, tough on foreign policy. I mean, one after another.
Don't defund the police, whatever you do?
No, we're not going to do that. No. It's all law and order now. I mean, this is a pivotal time in America. I really think that it's probably going to happen. I predict it's going to probably be Harris for president. I think it's going to be that way. The way I'm looking at it, because I don't see any pushback from any media on this except the right-wing media, which the middle of the roaders don't watch. Hey, speaking of the women's sports, something that's sort of flown under the radar. Yesterday, the new Title IX rules and regulations went into effect in 22 states, not in Missouri, because a federal court had just recently blocked it.
Yeah, on the Fox News monitor that we have here in the studio, Riley Gaines, who, of course, has kind of become the voice of the movement, if you will. She is on Fox News right now. And
so this is a big deal. Whereas, remember the Trump ruling, that's going away. So the Trump rule requiring schools to let accused cross-examine. This is not a transgender thing, but you know how there's been so many false accusations against men making sexual assault on women, for instance, the Duke rape case. There's been others. Well, a Trump ruling said that, schools need to let the accused cross-examine their accusers, a standard American due process law. That is no longer in force as of yesterday in many states. Now, thanks to A.G. Bailey and his team and others, we are among the states who there's a federal court that has put a hold on the new rules and regulations, and I assume it's the whole kit and caboodle of them. I don't know all the details. If A.G. Bailey is listening and wants to call in, we'd love to hear that, whether all of those rules, including men in women's bathrooms and being able to cross-examine your accused and locker rooms. But we've heard people from Independent Women's Forum and others, Hannah, who have said how chilling effect that is on a woman's team to have a guy walk in their locker room. And now in almost half the states as of yesterday. Of course, this is not a Harris policy. This is just a Biden policy. This is not a Harris policy. You know that. It's a Biden policy.
Well, I know when I was on Mizzou's campus, some of the bathrooms around campus are like all gendered bathrooms. Not all of them, but there's a few here and there. And I didn't realize at the time that that's what I had walked into. But I remember the first time I was in the bathroom stall and, the little crack between where the two panels are.
Yeah.
I saw a dude washing his hands, and I remember going,
Did I in the wrong room?
Yeah. And then you walk out and you see the, all gendered sign on the door. But
the Title IX rewrite, too, is a big one that may have flown under the radar, but that's about you can be deemed to be using hate speech if you're not using the biological pronoun that's called for by the individual.
And
that's on the books.
Yeah.
I think it's all good. I'm all for it. I think it's really great, and I hope they even go further. I'd like to see all the bathrooms struck down. I think we need to live under total progressive woke tyranny for a whole 4 years before this country will wake up. I really think that's probably what it's going to take. It'd be fun to watch.
Be job security.
It'd be fun to watch, wouldn't it? I mean, it really would. It'd be fun. We could comment on it, and we could just say, well, you get what you vote for. When people are, raising holy hell about it, it's like, well, I don't know. Have fun.
Told you so.
Yeah. Well, here's what one person, let's step aside and take a break, and then we come back. There are people, though, who I think Vice President Kamala journalist, and right off the bat, Rachel Scott, I think's her name, from ABC News, just, well, you called attorney generals or district attorneys, animals and this and that, one after another, accusing him of being a racist right off the bat. And he said, well, boy, I've never been so disrespectfully treated at the beginning. And he's right. It was rude. But should have he expected any different? No. But he called it out, which is good. And I think he could have done better by just getting away from the DEI thing. They kept wanting to get about DEI Harris and wanting him to basically endorse what a lot of people are doing when they're going after her as a DEI hire, which she is, but that's not the point, and it's not going to get us anywhere politically. It's all about the policies. When you have the policies on your side, that's what you focus on, and he did that eventually, but at any rate. But we have to commend him for showing up and doing it. She's not showing up to any open sessions, any open press conferences, she'll read a statement like she did after the Netanyahu interview, and then she's gone. She just walks out of there.
Well, actually, last night we got our first glimpse of her off script. Have you heard this?
No.
So here's what she sounds like when she's not reading from a teleprompter.
This is just an extraordinary testament to the importance of having a president who understands the power of diplomacy and understands the strength that rests in understanding the significance of diplomacy and strengthening alliances. This is an incredible day.
No wonder they shield her, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
I still say it would be so fun one of these days if we could get a hold of a teleprompter, or I'm sure there's like an app or something we could use to see if we can read off of a teleprompter. Because we give Biden so much grief for not being able to read the teleprompter, and I'm curious to see how we would do.
Back in the day, the old ones were tough. The new ones are a lot simpler, I understand. A lot more user-friendly.
Maybe our friends at ABC 17 will help us out there.
And I think one of the unsung heroes of teleprompter land are the people that control the rate and speed of the teleprompter, right? Because that's, I guess,
scroll,
some of the scroll is automatic on some of them. I've used a couple when I've shot some videos and some things.
Well, maybe it's just me that's never used a teleprompter.
No, well, what I did, I used my iPad and used an app, and you just set it at a given rate, and so you have to adapt yourself to that. But I mean, I think in the big time, John, if I'm not mistaken, don't they have people that actually sort of, they're listening with one ear and they're watching the teleprompter with their eye, and they're controlling that. I think that.
I need to ask Mark Alford about it. He'd be the guy to ask.
That's a good idea.
After his zillion years in TV.
Yeah, and I don't know whether they do it in TV, but certainly I think out on the stump, I think they do that. Maybe I'm wrong.
You said do.
They do that. So here is what one gentleman was just sort of, I love these. You know what I really like? The TikTok or the Reels or whatever, when people are just sort of, they're looking up into the sky and they're just sort of thinking, it's just, you know what I mean, Hannah? They're not contrived. They're just sort of sitting there looking up, just sort of talking to themselves, and the camera's rolling. They're very natural, very organic.
Yeah.
I love those kind of things. Those are good. So here's this guy. This is a black dude, and he looks like an everyday person, right? Just hanging out. He's got his little hoodie on. He's an older guy. And here's what he said.
Type discussion. Kamala does not show. Doesn't even reply yes. Trump replies yes, he shows up. And instead of the committee taking the time to ask questions to Trump about what his policies are for Black America, what he plans on doing this time around for Black America, and giving him the opportunity to speak his piece, they attacked him. This is exactly what I'm talking about. How was that beneficial? Instead of sitting back saying, hey, last time in 2020, you had something called the Platinum Plan. What is your goal this time? Nope. It started late.
So, and he goes on, good for him. Hough. He is a state senator, of course, and a powerful one at that, being the head of the Appropriations Committee in the state Senate. So welcome to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, Senator.
Oh, Randy, it's always good to be on the show, and good morning, and happy Wake Up Mid-Missouri on this Friday.
Yeah, how are things down on the farm? The weather's been hot. Are the cattle doing okay?
The weather's been hot, but I tell you what, we had probably one of the best Julys of recent memory. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm down here in southwest Missouri, just outside of Springfield, and it kind of looks like the Garden of Eden. It is green. The grass is growing. The hay fields are coming back. We've got our first cutting up. And by the time this election is over next week, we're going to be thinking about when do we start mowing these hay fields again.
Yeah. So, Missouri is a diverse state, right? I mean, we've got the two, big metro areas, either side of 70, struggling under blue leadership, especially in St. Louis. I mean, really bad news. Provide a lot of money into the state coffers. And then you got the big geographical ag area, right? And
sure.
So it's a difficult state in terms of, managing the various interests. You're running for lieutenant governor. How do you think about that, just in terms of the campaign, number one, and governing, number two?
Well, here's how I think of it. I think everybody in this state matters. And what I've told people, I was in Worth County in Sheridan, Missouri last week. We were in South Central and Southeast Missouri most of this week. We've been obviously spending a lot of time in the St. Louis and Kansas City areas, as well as mid-Missouri, and then, my home base down here in Southwest. When we go up into, say northern Missouri, and we're in, like I said, Worth County, people are surprised that we're there. They say, I can't, and we've had events up there. We've had barbecues and cookouts on people's farms, and they say, thank you so much for putting in the miles, putting in the hours, putting in the drive time to come up and see us. And I just look at them, and Randy, I mean this as sincerely as I can. Everyone matters in this state. To me, I'm a Southwest Missouri guy, but I've always, in my time as the appropriations chairman, I've always prioritized the best investments for the entire state. It's not about the area that I'm from. It's about all of us working together. And, we've built a great team. The campaign's been a lot more than I ever could have asked for. When you start out on these things, you kind of develop a game plan and you say, here's what we want to do. And you make some adjustments along the way. But I've told folks recently, as this thing's kind of winding down, this has been everything that I ever wanted to put together, the team that I wanted to build, and a whole lot more, because the endorsements and associations and volunteers have just been phenomenal. And I'm really looking forward to Tuesday. I think it's going to be a really good day.
Senator, I know there's people out there who talk about the lieutenant governor's, position, saying, well, it doesn't have that much of a role, ombudsman for veteran and go to bat for Missouri ag and things like that. But talk to us about the whole angle of presiding over the state Senate. It's a similar career path that we saw Mike Kehoe take, and that's a big part of it, isn't it?
Sure. Well, I like to remind people that our current governor, Mike Parson, was the lieutenant governor for, I believe, about 17 months. So for anybody out there who thinks, well, you just kind of, you're the military and veteran advocate, and yes, you're going around and doing this Buy Missouri program, and you preside over the Senate. We're also, this office is also a tie-breaking vote. I did an interview last week, and someone said, where are you on this issue, and why do you think people care about where you are on the Second Amendment and where you are, pro-life and, staunchly pro-life, staunchly pro-Second Amendment? And I said, I think it matters because, one, you might end up being the chief executive of this state, and people should know where you stand on these issues. But two, in the event, now we've got supermajorities of Republicans in the House and the Senate, so the likelihood of this happening is small. But in the event that we've got a tie-breaking vote in the Senate, the lieutenant governor makes that vote. And you're exactly right. Yes, we preside over the chamber, so anyone who's been paying attention to state politics knows that I've been doing that a lot for the last 6 years, and look forward to doing it more come January.
We're talking with Senator Lincoln Hough, candidate for lieutenant governor, and of course has an awful lot of and had a lot of responsibility for driving that big project on Highway 70. And so that's quite a legacy, having led, that battle, I think, in terms of the funding for that and everything. You've taken some heat in the past over Medicaid expansion, Senator Hough. How do you answer those critics?
Well, I answer those critics the same way we started this interview. When the voters of this state said that they wanted to expand that population through a ballot initiative, I didn't think it was the legislature's then authority to say, well, you maybe didn't know what you were talking about. It's always one of those funny things about politics that folks will go around and say, hey, vote for me. You're smart enough to vote for me, but you're not smart enough to make your own decision at the ballot. And so, ultimately, we had a unanimous Supreme Court decision, so that you've got conservative judges on our Missouri Supreme Court who said this is now the law of the land, and we're going to have to, make those reimbursements to those providers. So I'm not too worried about the heat that, somebody wants to make up about an issue like that, because I think really that's standing up for the voters.
And let's point out, too, you represent Greene County. Greene County was one of the about 8 or 9 counties that did vote for Medicaid expansion, and your constituents certainly supported. Senator, I'd also point out about 106 counties of this state, and I know it's not the majority in terms of votes, but the majority of counties overwhelmingly voted down Medicaid expansion. It passed because of the big cities and obviously Greene County, Boone County, et cetera. But your constituents certainly voted for that. I want to ask you again, we're speaking here with powerful Senate Appropriations Committee Chair Lincoln Hough. He represents Greene County. He's a candidate here for Lieutenant Governor. We did have Mr. Ashcroft on our show earlier this week. He is running for governor. And he talked about a variety of issues, but one of the things he complained about, and he didn't talk about you specifically, but he says our veterans homes, he says, are underfunded. And I asked him how much. He said about 30 to 50 million. And he said if something is not done, one of them could close. And he was critical of the legislature in general. Any response to that?
Yeah, my response to that is I wish that the Secretary of State, Mr. Ashcroft, would pay a little more attention to what we do in the legislature, because leading the Senate Appropriations Committee, we actually put in about $40 million last year to shore up those veterans' homes. And really, this is as much you talked about I-70 briefly, but, there's a lot of correlations between the veterans' home spending and our infrastructure in this state. And a lot of times these are issues that the state, through leadership like myself and other members of the committee, have prioritized and said, we're going to take this on, even if the federal government isn't going to, right? I mean, I should not have had to put a plan together to spend almost $3 billion to rebuild and expand I-70. The federal government should have done that probably 25 years ago, and they can't do it. This is when we've got good representation in D.C. Don't get me wrong. I think Congressman Alford and Congressman Smith and Congressman Graves are doing a phenomenal job. But as I look at where these priorities need to be funded in this state, we did prioritize veterans home spending to the tune of about $40 million, which was, according to the Veterans Commission, the gap associated with where those dollars needed to be. And so we made that investment. And, my direct answer to Mr. Ashcroft would be pay attention to what we do in the legislature, because we actually took care of that.
Senator, thank you so much.
Senator, we remember you were the sponsor of the 2022 tax cuts. Is another round doable?
So the way we put that tax cut, fully implemented, and I think the governor announced this is Friday. The governor announced maybe on Monday that we had actually grown enough as an economy in this state to trigger another one of those tax cuts. We did that in a responsible way. There's a lot of people out on the campaign trail right now saying, let's cut this tax to zero, or let's cut that tax to zero. In a long-range plan, some of those ideas are doable. Right now, I would probably heed the advice of our now auditor, then state treasurer, and former House budget chairman, so my counterpart in the House, Scott Fitzpatrick, who now serves as our auditor. He came out several months ago, it was probably 2 years ago when we started talking about, doing another round of tax cuts on the income tax, and said, let's make sure that when we do this, we do it in a responsible way, that as the economy grows, these thresholds are met, and then we tick off, a few percent or 0.1% or whatever. And so that's what we did. I would like to see those things play out. I think I like to remind folks that I've got a unique perspective on this, because I actually served as a county commissioner in Greene County for a couple of years. And I know the impact that some of these ideas or campaign promises have on local communities. And sometimes I think folks that go out there on the stump and say some of these things don't understand in practicality how they work or how they affect folks. And so, we've got several more thresholds that can be met to lower our state income tax for every working Missourian. And I'm proud of the work that I've done, proud of the work that the legislature's done. And so I think we ought to let those things kind of flesh out over the next few years and then see where we are.
All that said, Senator Hough, over the last redistricting nationally, Missouri lost a seat, and it resulted in quite a congressional seat. It resulted in quite a contentious battle, and I think really helped fuel some of the so-called grassroots freedom, caucus folks versus the so-called establishment, in terms of how much to really use power when you have it and make a difference. I continue to ask everyone at the state level and people aspiring for state leadership, why, you've got in-migration in terms of population gain in Texas, Tennessee, and Florida. The common denominator there is no income tax. They don't punish people for working hard, for productivity, for burning the candle at three ends, if that's what it takes.
Right.
Why don't we look towards those states and move towards emulating those? I mean, Secretary of State Ashcroft, that's one of his agendas. You say that it's, these kind of things are campaign promises, but after all, shouldn't that be an aspirational goal that we just emulate what works in other places or not?
Well, I think you need to look at the geography of at least two out of the three states that you mentioned. I mean, Texas has something called oil that they derive a lot of their state income from. Florida obviously has a few beaches on, virtually every side of that state. And there's a whole lot of tourism dollars associated with that, and a lot of folks that move down there to, either winter and get out of the northern states, or maybe have moved down and retired down there and spend their savings in those communities. So probably not apples to apples comparison there.
Tennessee is.
But Tennessee is as close as you can get. You're right. And here's what I was going to say. We're moving in that direction. And when I say these are campaign promises, I say that because folks that are running for these top leadership positions that come out and say things like that have to work with other members. They've got to work with the legislature, because I don't care how great the idea is from a governor, if they don't have the majority of the House and the majority of the Senate working in the same regard, they can't do anything. You can say you want to do all these things, but you've got to build coalitions. You got to build relationships. And that's, that's kind of the track record that I've established. A lot of people talk about cutting taxes. I actually did it, right? 2 years ago, we actually put a plan together in a special session with a lot of other members and a lot of other stakeholders, and we did it. We've made investments in communities. Yeah, we talked about I-70, but look, I could talk about industrial parks in Marshfield. I was in Republic, Missouri yesterday. They were doing an announcement on yet another expansion in that community and their industrial park that the state was a partner in. Those are the kinds of things, and those are the kinds of things that I want to see us continue to invest in. And then I'll remind everyone that we just got our job creation numbers out for the last quarter of the year, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Missouri is now leading the country. It's not California, it's not Texas, it's not Florida. We are the number one state for job creation in the last 3 months. That tells me that we're doing something right, and we need to stay on this course.
All right.
And
that's good news.
The senator is
good news.
He's correct on that.
Super good. Hey, we're out of time, Senator. Have your copay?
Can you bill me?
This will be professional courtesy then. No problem.
Okay. So some of the gym bros on TikTok are pointing out that there's a surprising food that we should maybe be eating instead of the really chewy and thick protein bars.
Oh, good.
I know every day, maybe not every day, but a lot of times I have a bar in the studio, and Randy likes to pick them up and like scrutinize them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not scrutinize, but investigate.
I'm looking out for you, Hannah.
Yeah.
Looking out for you.
Parmesan cheese.
Hmm?
So folks are looking at the nutritional, impact of Parmesan cheese compared to protein bars. And let's be honest, protein bars, even the really good ones, they're not that great, right? No. Like, you would much rather be eating many other things. But Parmesan cheese, for every 20 calories of it, you're getting 2 grams of protein. And that ratio is the same as many of the, popular protein bars that you would think of. So what do you think?
I don't know. There's a lot of saturated fat in there and a lot of salt.
A lot of salt.
A lot of salt, too.
And you talk about a couple grams. Well, what's a serving of Parmesan cheese?
A couple grams.
5 grams.
10 grams, 20 grams?
Yeah, 5 grams of Parmesan cheese is 20 calories and 2 grams of protein.
Yeah, so that may be, a tablespoon?
Yeah, that's not much.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you sprinkle it on something, that's okay.
Yeah, I've seen some gym bros eating a literal hunk of Parmesan cheese, and then some are using the powdered stuff to add to their food.
You know what's a good substitute for that? You ought to try it sometime. Nutrition. Now, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, out with a new ad, by the way. Great new ad, Lieutenant Governor. Welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Good morning, guys, and thanks for having me on.
Our pleasure. Hey, we wanted to play some sound for you from the other day. We've had Bill Eigel, we've had Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft on, and we wanted to just play something that Bill Eigel said and just get your response to it.
Well, I mean, I'm proud to have the Trump endorsement, but the reality is there's nothing in the world that can change Mike Kehoe's history of voting to sell Missouri land to China. He will readily admit that in 2013 he voted to sell more than 270,000 acres of Missouri farmland to China. He voted for the largest tax increase in the history of the state on our gas tax. He's looking to create new exceptions to the heartbeat bill, which prohibited abortion in this state. Listen, Mike Kehoe is a liberal Democrat. Nothing's going to change that fact.
So Senator Eigel went on the attack against both you and Secretary of State Ashcroft. What is your response?
Desperate. The guy's desperate. I mean, look at what he's done in the Senate. Nothing. He's only been a a person who likes to govern through chaos and screaming and hollering. He knows he's way behind. He's going to throw everything he can at every candidate he can. As you guys know, that's not who I am. I'm a person that governs and builds relationships. Bill Eigel wants to burn things down. I want to build things up.
Let's talk about your legacy as Lieutenant Governor and how you would translate into the gubernatorial position should you win.
Well, I mean, this has been, for one, as you guys know, my background, an incredibly humbling experience. But, being able to travel the state and being involved in multiple issues through the help from the governor, whether it's economic development, part of our agricultural task force on how to grow our state's ag economy, working with first responders, including law enforcement, for years now in our role, has really given me the insight of what we need to do to move Missouri forward. And I've been to every county in the state, some multiple times and multiple times. We've built relationships with community leaders from one end of the state to the other. When it comes to economic development, I would ask Missourians, who do you want in the boardroom with a CEO when we're expanding a company or possibly asking a company to move here? You've heard from the other candidates this week. Those aren't the guys you want sitting down trying to figure out a deal with a Fortune 500 company. That's my background, 35 years of small business. That's what I know how to do, and I think I'm ready to go.
Governor, my stock question that I floated to Jay Ashcroft and Bill Eigel, being Jefferson City and Columbia, arguably company towns, meaning state worker jobs, asked them what their plan was. Will state worker jobs stay in place? And Bill Eigel brought up the fact that he'd immediately get rid of vacant state jobs. Jay Ashcroft said, well, we function pretty well with a whole lot less people at work during the pandemic. Your take on state worker jobs, are they safe if you're elected governor?
Yeah, we have a great team, John, as you guys know. As you guys, you go to the grocery store, you go to church, your kids are in school with the parents of people who work for the state of Missouri. We have a great team at the state of Missouri. I'm big fans of what they do for our customers, the taxpayers. We need to continue to find efficiencies, and they all know I feel this way, through technology investment, et cetera. But leaving a good system in place to take care of Missouri's taxpayers is something we want to do. But as I've mentioned, you guys know, I'm a small business guy, so we're always going to look for ways to make sure we're giving the taxpayer the best return on investment, look for efficiencies through technology investment, and try to make state government run better. We've gotten better at that under the Parson administration, and I know state employees are ready to step up, take the challenge, and make sure we get even better as we go forward.
Mike Kehoe is our guest. He is Missouri's lieutenant governor, and he is one of 9 Republicans that are seeking the GOP gubernatorial nomination on Tuesday. There are also a number of 5 Democrats seeking the Democratic nomination. Whoever wins the nominations on both sides will be running in November against each other. Mr. Kehoe, I know one of the issues that you and I have talked many times over the years, and you're a former member of the Highway Commission, is I-70. And we just had our live interview with Senator Lincoln Hough, and he was a little frustrated the federal government did not act sooner on I-70, perhaps even 20 years ago. In the end, as you know, this is primarily almost all state dollars that are going to I-70. How big is that project for Missouri?
It's huge, Brian. As you know, you and I and everybody on this program and talked about that project, you're right, for decades. We are the transportation hub of the United States for shipping and logistics, as well as manufacturing, plant sciences, agriculture, as we mentioned earlier. Getting 76-lane all the way across the state. The number of jobs it creates while the project is going on is a massive impact to our state's economy. And then what we can do for economic development with that corridor is incredible. And as you know, and if you had Lincoln just on, we're starting to get where we need to be on I-44 because, as you know, that roadbed's not far behind 70 in age, and it's just about caught up in traffic count. So continuing to be the state that can market what we have for distribution is something is our strength, and we want to continue to be able to do that.
Now, Lieutenant Governor, I saw you Monday in Columbia. Thanks for bringing Gabby to town, by the way. I really appreciated that.
Was that the first time you've met Gabby?
Oh, no. But you mentioned on Monday that you've done over 200 bus tour stops across the state. And you mentioned earlier you're a relationships guy. Do you have maybe a highlight from the campaign trail from your bus tour that you could share with us? Maybe one moment that stands out to you above the others?
Well, we've now completed 220, Hannah.
Oh, wow. Oh, I'm behind. Goodness.
We have 5. Well, that was Monday. You know, we're on a roll. This is Friday. We'll be in Stockton and Colorado Springs and Nevada, and Harrisonville today, all the way up to Blue Springs, by the way, St. Joe tomorrow, et cetera. I would say the highlight for me is at several different stops when a person that I've never met in my life pulls me aside and says, "Can I pray over you?" That's it's an incredible experience. And I really don't even know how to describe it. But that's happened more than once. And you don't get through this race. It's brutal. You know, it's obvious we're in the lead because they're throwing everything and their brother at me, because when you're in the lead, they're going to hit every negative attack ad they can against you. If I was 10 points behind, guess what? Nobody would tell you anything about Mike Kehoe. But it's a humbling experience when somebody grabs you and says that to you. It's been tough on Claudia and I to get through all this and staff, but it's the prayers that really bring us across the line.
Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe joins us in the tight race for governor of Missouri, with the Republican primary being next Tuesday. Just wanted to ask you the same question I've asked others. That is, you know, we see other states, and I guess Tennessee would be maybe the geographically and resource-wise closest comparison, that have eliminated the income tax. And granted, we have seen some income tax decrease. The governor announced another little 0.1% the other day based on thresholds of revenue. If you were to choose some way to give tax relief of the sort that is bringing masses of people into Tennessee from Illinois, from California, New York, what would be that vision for you over the long term? Would it be eventually eliminating a tax on people's productivity or a tax on their property, or where do you go with that? Or none of the above?
The largest tax any Missourian pays is our income tax. And to your point, Randy, that is part of our plan, our economic development plan. If we want to grow the state's economy, we have to have that tool in our toolbox. Other states, you mentioned Tennessee, Texas, et cetera, they sit down with those Fortune 500 companies. That's the first thing they learn out of their mouth. We don't have that. Now, we have reduced, as you have said, with Governor Parson, from 6% to 4.6%. You guys know, I've backed $2.4 billion in tax cuts, more than anybody else in this race, more than anybody else in this race combined. So we do have Art Lapper on our team. He's President Trump's tax advisor. He was Ronald Reagan's tax advisor. And he and I have sat down and we worked through a plan that would, not like a light switch, won't happen overnight, but we will eliminate Missouri's income tax. Putting money back in Missourians' pockets is much more effective in government than any bureaucrat trying to spend that. Ronald Reagan always said that. It's the basic economic theory. Let citizens spend the money, not the bureaucrats.
Lieutenant Governor, you mentioned you're going to be campaigning tomorrow, or today, in Stockton, and you mentioned Harrisonville, Stockton, Blue Springs, St. Joseph, and I know I saw you on TV on KHQA. You were up at a rodeo in LaBelle. A lot of these very small towns across the state, and that's kind of a question I'm going to ask. When you and I were growing up, rural Missouri, Jerry Litton. I think of Jerry Litton. I think of all of rural Missouri except Southwest Missouri. It was all Democrat. You look at it today. It's almost all Republican rural Missouri. What happened there?
Well, the Democrat Party left those people, Brian. You're right. When we were growing up, a lot of rural Missouri, especially northeast and southeast Missouri,
Yes.
were Democrats. But those Democrats, they were pro-life, pro-Second Amendment people, and they woke up one day and they looked at somebody like Cori Bush or AOC and said, that's not me. The Republican Party really has become the party of the working person. And, Brian, you knew how I grew up. Many of your listeners know how I grew up. We represent the people who carry the lunch to work. The Democrats used to do that, and they've absolutely abandoned and went to socialism. So as people saw where the Democrat Party was going to, they looked at the Republican Party for hope and for the party that had common sense and that carried their conservative Christian values. And I believe in my heart of hearts, and I've talked to many of those people who would tell me, Brian, 10 years ago, my grandpa and my mother, they were Democrats. We can't associate with that party. That's what's happening. They're Christian conservatives, and they have seen that the Republicans represent them the best.
All right. Hey, well, we wish you well as we head up towards the election. We wish best on the campaign trail. Thanks for being with us, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. Best to you.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Okay. Thanks
Thank you
very
so much.
All right.
That was very powerful.
Yeah.
I think
hard to understand. I think he was walking. Maybe I'm not sure.
Well,
if he was on the road,
and it is windy. I would just say one thing about that. That is a big deal in the Republican primary. Outstate Missouri, or as Scott Vaughn would say, outstate Missouri, is going to be a decider. And if he has been campaigning, he being Mike Kehoe has been campaigning very hard on these small towns. I know Mr. Ashcroft and Mr. Eigel have been to a lot of these counties across the state, almost all of them as well. But that rural Missouri vote, huge in a Republican primary, and how it turns out, I think it'll have a big impact on Tuesday. It'll be interesting to see. But I think the wind were at times it was a little hard to hear.
Difficult. Yeah.
Heck, he might have been on horseback.
Who knows? I heard a truck go by too there.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. When we come back, John, what's going on your plate?
The Candyman can, even at the Olympics.
Oh, all right.
Basketball, but unofficially, they all know him as the Candy Guy. He's going viral on social after he was spotted carrying 6 giant Tupperware containers and a Ziploc bag of candy onto the court during the game the other night against South Sudan. Dawson also takes care of things like uniforms at the Olympics. He admits his biggest task is to make sure players get Butterfingers off, not on the court. Said LeBron, who had the honor of being the flag bearer, has a definite sweet tooth. He says his picks kind of vary. He just goes with his mode and his mood. But Lifesaver mints are among the candies that Dawson keeps in his containers, along with Werther's Original, which he says that is a Dawn Staley favorite. Cough drops don't come to mind as a desirable candy, but Dawson says they're vital. Says the coaches love cough drops because they're always yelling and having to raise their voice. So here we go. Team USA. Anthony Davis apparently partial to Snickers. Devin Booker has to have his Hershey's with almonds. Kevin Durant all about the Reese's peanut butter cups. How about this? Steph Curry like St. Joseph, Missouri-made cherry mash. And there are rumors that you will not touch LeBron's Nerds clusters.
Uh-oh.
There's the rest of that story. Steph, are you listening?
I can relate to that one.
Now, wait a minute. Isn't that one of your favorites, Hannah?
The Nerds clusters, yes.
I thought so.
So I don't like regular Nerds that much, but the Nerds gummy clusters, they're pretty good.
What's the difference between a regular nerd and a nerd cluster?
The Nerd is almost like aquarium gravel. You know, like brightly colored, real small, crunchy candies.
It's crunchy.
That's a good take on it.
Okay.
Yeah. The Nerd gummy cluster, you take Nerds and you sort of roll it around like a gummy consistency, and it's in a little bite. So the outside is crunchy and the inside is chewy.
And Hannah was handing them out to the participants in the 9/11 stair climb at Memorial Stadium that morning.
Okay.
That is true because they're so full of sugar. I know lots of folks who eat them like in place of a pre-workout because it's, you know, like it breaks down fast because it's pure sugar.
Sure.
So yeah, I brought those and they were a hit.
Now, are these like the real soury kind of things? Is that, or no? They're sweet?
A little tart, but I don't know if I'd call them sour.
Yeah, they're not like a warhead or one of those.
Is that the stuff Sammy likes, the warheads? I think that's it. Really tart.
Those are good every once in a while, yeah.
I think Sammy likes this, if I'm not mistaken.
I wanted to singe all of the taste buds off of my tongue.
Remember the cinnamon stuff? Talk about ruining your tongue.
I can't do the hot cinnamon stuff.
My wife loves the cinnamon gum. She loves that cinnamon. I can do cinnamon gum for about 5 minutes, and my tongue's raw for the next week. I don't know.
I've never been able to do Fireball either, though. So
I remember back in the day going and getting the cinnamon oil and dipping toothpicks in them and let it dry and then suck on the toothpicks.
I remember that. You too. Okay, there you go. All right, boy, that ages us, John. Oh, you've never heard of that, did you, Hannah?
Nope.
You get that at the drugstore, right? Yeah. You know,
they had all sorts of little.
Speaking of very herb oils, you know, if you have a toothache, you can get a little clove oil. You can buy clove oil if they still have it at various local drugstores. And you just touch that on your tooth, and that can really help with
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I am good, and I guess you must be getting fatigued with all of the frenzy of a campaign, but maybe not. Tell us.
Well, okay, so this last 3 days I have been in Jasper, Carter, Polk, Jackson. They're all blurring together. Cooper counties. I'm from Jefferson County, remember? So that's the mid-eastern side of the state. And, I don't like the driving. It's a lot of time in the car, but meeting with voters is really great. And I'm always really impressed with the people who are willing to give up their evening and go to a park in 100-degree weather and listen to 45 minutes of 3-minute speeches to try to learn about the candidates. Like, that's America in action. That's incredible. And so I love meeting with the patriots who are out there involved and active and love our state and love our country. I don't know that I love the efforting metrics that the campaigns all put out about
what are you hearing?
How far you've driven and all that.
What are you hearing on the ground in terms of what people are either celebrating about Missouri GOP politics or would like a little different course? And where do you stand in those discussions?
Yeah, so I hear a lot of confusion. A question I get asked a lot is about the other races. And, is it true that blah, blah, blah? And trying to cipher through what is, and, they all have a kernel of truth in these ads or else they can't publish them, but they're distorted for their particular view. I saw an ad just this morning talking about a legislator who had missed a ton of votes, but what they didn't say is that chamber suspends the rules and that elected serves as a chairman of a different committee so that they can get the budget turned in on time to fund the state. And it's like, well, that's not really the complete story. They're not just missing votes. They're working, and the body decided that they would rather he keep working over there while we work over here because there's so much to do. And so, that's frustrating, but people run negative ads because they work. One of the benefits of the Secretary of State's race is we have so many candidates and people are deciding so late that by and large, it's been a positive campaign. Now, there's one exception to that who's saying some really awful things that really aren't true. But by and large, people don't know the candidates in the Secretary of State's race because there's so many of it, because they're focused on trying to decide who they believe or who they want vision for the gubernatorial race or the AG's race, that this race hasn't really gone negative, which has been honestly kind of nice.
Senator, what's your take on the new Title IX restrictions and changes that went into effect today, and what could those potentially mean for Missourians?
Oh my gosh, I haven't seen them yet. This is terrible. I've been so focused on the Secretary of State's race, I don't even know what the new Title IX rules are. I hope you'll forgive me.
Well, they expand the definition of sexual discrimination.
Oh, those go into effect today, the ones that they passed earlier. Yes, I've been following that closely. I'm so sorry. Well, the Biden administration is going to be sued. What they're trying to do is do an end run around the definition of sex. Sex means male or female. Those are immutable characteristics. That's a fancy legal way of saying you just can't change that. Race, sex, national origin. The reason why these were initially enacted as protected classes in Title IX for girls and women's sports is because you can't change them. And we believe that women should compete against women and girls against girls in order to try to get more girls involved in sports. And the Title IX rules were wildly successful. It went from about 14% girl participation in sports before Title IX was enacted up to 78% of girls compete in some kind of sport up through high school. And the reason that's important, of course, is because competing in sports helps women succeed in all areas of life. And if you look at our elected leaders, the percentage of women who go into politics to lead our state and our country, the high percentage of student athletes really shows what a benefit that's been. But this is, an end run around trying to dismantle girls and women's sports, which I think is really horrific. And you kind of have seen the natural conclusion of that just this week at the Olympics, where you have, men punching women in the face and being celebrated on the national stage, which is horrifying and horrific. Or, out in the eastern part of the state in St. Charles County in Ellisville, you've got, men, biological men, in women's private locker room spaces where there are little girls bragging about how many naked women they've seen, and corporations siding with these dudes. So, yeah, I think I don't think that the Biden administration, the Harris administration has the authority to just change those rules without congressional approval. And so we're going to hopefully see that turned reverse in court.
Our guest here is State Senator Mary Elizabeth Coleman. She is from Arnold, which is in Jefferson County, south of St. Louis. There are 8 Republican candidates who are running for Secretary of State. By the way, there are 3 Democratic candidates running as well, including State Representative Barbara Pfeiffer. There's also Libertarian nominee Carl Fries, who's going to be the Libertarian nominee, but Mary Elizabeth Coleman is our guest. Obviously, Senator, you've been campaigning across the state in both your area in eastern Missouri and all over the state, 114 counties. If elected, of course, if you win the primary and if you were to go on to win the general in November, what would be your top 2 or 3 priorities for that office, Secretary of State?
Sure. Number 1, 2, and 3 has to be election integrity. I'm the only candidate in the race that's been endorsed by Election Integrity Organization nationally. But that has got to be our top priority. We have over 77,000 illegal immigrants who've come into this state. It's really not just an occupation. It's a planned invasion. We have an ability right now to register to vote without proof of citizenship. Anybody who's gone to the DMV can tell you that they immediately ask you, do you want to register to vote, whether you're a citizen or not, or whether you're a resident of Missouri or not. We don't have a viable way to check whether you're registered to vote, not just in Missouri, but in Kansas or Florida or Tennessee or wherever else at the same time. And when you do go to register to vote, there is just a little box that asks you, are you a U.S. citizen? Check yes or no. But if you've entered into this country illegally, then you're going to have no qualms about checking that box. It asks for a driver's license number, but if you don't have that, you can leave it blank. It asks for a social security number, but if you don't have that, you can leave that blank. And so we have got to do a better job and have voter ID, not just at the voter box, but also when we're registering to vote, to make sure that you're a citizen and a resident of Missouri.
Senator Coleman, when we talked with Secretary of State Ashcroft, asked him that question, and we talked with Brianna Lennon, the local clerk here in Boone County. She said that they run some of these things by other agencies like Social Security, the division up in D.C. and others, but not DHS. Yesterday, Secretary of State Ashcroft announced filing a suit against the Biden administration to challenge the executive order regarding voting requirements. And that's basically the expansion of voter registration under the aegis of the federal administration, the Biden administration. Would you endorse that kind of a move and try to really bring the registration back into the state, so where we wouldn't have to use the federal registration form? Is that sort of what you're talking about along those lines?
I think that's an important part of it. What you have seen is Secretary Ashcroft move Missouri from around the 38th most secure elections in the country, according to national think tanks who work on this arena, into the top 3. So my comments are never an indictment of Secretary Ashcroft, but just to say where we still have more work to do. One of the more controversial things that was done, though, was remove us from something called the ERIC system. The ERIC system is one of those ways that you can check between states, and it had some security problems, but there's a number of different American companies that do this work that have secure data to make sure that we're able to check that you're not registered in multiple places. And I do think that pushing back against this radical, woke Biden administration has got to be part of the job, and you need somebody who has the experience to know what's going on and to know how to push back, and then has the fortitude to actually do it. And so certainly I support that action.
All right. So I guess the differential advantage that you would say between you and the other candidates, there's several other candidates out there. What's the single big differential advantage in terms of either your record or your vision?
So I think it's twofold. First of all, I'm not really a politician. I'm a mom who got mad, and there's no one who protects. There's no one who stands firm like a mom on a mission. And I got involved in politics not because I, think that these seats are anything other than our people's. They're all of yours and mine, and we should have people who just take the job for a period of time. Not that it's their identity, but because they have a skill set to be able to get it done. And so, I'm a mom on a mission, and a lot of times people are looking at, okay, who are your friends? Who are the organizations that are supporting a certain person to try to differentiate in a crowded field? And I'm the only one who's endorsed by a national election integrity organization. I'm the only one who's endorsed by national pro-life groups. You can also tell a lot by somebody's enemies are, and there's nobody that the left hates more than me. And the reason why is because I do what I say I'm going to do. I'm not a campaign conservative. And the State House, I was proud to pass the Missouri, as the architect of the Missouri Stands for the Unborn Act that ended abortion in the state. And the state Senate finally was able to get across the finish line defunding Planned Parenthood once and for all. When you're looking for somebody whose identity is not the job, who is just somebody who cares a lot about our state, and when you look for somebody who has the ability to get it done and on a record to prove they've done it, I'm the candidate for them. So Mary Elizabeth Coleman, Secretary of State, it's a lot of names in that race, a long list. I'm keep on going down until you see Mary Elizabeth Coleman.
And where they can take a look at your policy positions, learn more about you?
MaryElizabethColeman.com.
All right.
Check me out there, and I'm on all the social media channels as well.
Super good. All right. Well, we'll be reporting on that race on Tuesday, and we look forward to seeing how it all comes out. Thanks very much, and good luck ahead of Tuesday. She says, by the way, that there was a lot of heat last night. He was throwing a lot of flame and fire at the 1,000-degree temperature event. But we'll get a full report on Monday. All right, guys, the job growth did not even come close to expectations. That's driving futures even further down than the close yesterday. The close yesterday was bad enough, almost 500 points on the Dow Jones, 75 points on the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ down almost 2.5%. Well, it's not looking any better on the heels of the jobs report. Now, what is the jobs report saying? It is saying that only 114,000 jobs created in July. The forecasts were somewhere around 185,000, and that headline number is 4.3%, the unemployment rate. That's a big deal. That's the highest it's been since October of 21. Construction was not as strong as it's been, but still hanging in there. Healthcare, government-led, as they usually do. Manufacturing is slumping. What does that tell us? That tells us, as well as, John, the hospitality and leisure was down in fourth or fifth in jobs. Yeah. What that tells me is people are running out of discretionary money. What do you think?
And a big factor in there, we keep waiting on the Fed to do something with interest rates. And the folks watching the Fed futures, said, well, looks like it's going to happen in September. Well, and I think some of the experts are now saying, maybe is it too late for the Fed to cut interest rates and drive us into a recession?
Well, look, the Dow is down. The futures are down almost 1% on the Dow, 1.5% on the S&P, 2% on the NASDAQ. Oil down, it had taken a little bump with the Hamas political leader and the Hezbollah military leader being killed over the past few days. Look, things are rocky on this economy. There's no doubt about it. Lots of uncertainty. The markets don't like uncertainty. The people, you and me, that have to try to find a way to pay our bills, we don't like uncertainty. How's that going to play into the campaign? I don't know. Can they claim the greatest jobs creation ever when things are slumping in the jobs market?
Well, they're talking about a soft landing with the Fed and all, and it looks like they may have missed the boat.
Well, I don't know, but they didn't want to fuel more inflation. Because the inflation number was looking pretty good last month, but it hadn't settled down totally.
And their magic number, 2%, right?
Yeah, they're not approaching that at all. So this is big news, and we'll watch and see what happens in the markets today. Of course, report on that on Monday. Hey, I guess, John, if the markets tumble, maybe some will say that's a buying opportunity. If you haven't spent all your money on the grocery store and the gas pump and for winners and losers of the week. And we will get them out there. If you text us, 573-874-9390, or you can call, of course. Either one works. Hannah, you're up first for your winners and your losers.
Oh, man, where do I even start? Of course, we've been covering the Olympics. There's several female athletes that I want to nominate for winner of the week, and the Olympic Committee agreed with me on these. But gymnast Simone Biles, Sunisa Lee, who's also a gymnast and a student at Auburn and competing in the Olympics, which is crazy. Katie Ledecky, the swimmer. Alona Marr, the rugby player who's gotten lots of traction as an influencer in recent years. Mm-hmm. I like to see, women in athletics not only succeeding at high levels, but the media is covering their stories like crazy. Mm-hmm. And so I really love to see that. I have Stephanie's winner and loser of the week.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's see. She nominated... You're going to love this, Randy. She nominated Morgan Wallen as both winner and loser of the week.
Why is that?
So she, of course, was at his concert last night in Arrowhead Stadium, and she nominated him as winner of the week for putting on a really good concert. And then she also nominated him for winner of the week for bringing out Brooks and Dunn, and they sang Neon Moon together. But she nominated Morgan Wallen as loser of the week as well, because he was shooting a lot of flames and like pyrotechnics during his stage set, and it was already, as Stephanie said, 1,000 degrees already. It's been pretty warm this week, so that Stephanie had Morgan Wallen on both sides of the ticket. Mizzou, I hope I'm not stealing anyone's, but Mizzou has announced this week, and they made national headlines that they're getting rid of their DEI program.
There went one of mine.
Oops, sorry. So I thought that was cool that not only are they eliminating the program, but it went viral. So
big time.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
All right, good. Yeah, boy, that's a big winner. John, who do you have?
I got a couple of winners. How about this? And one you can relate to. The City of Mexico, Audrain County, and the Audrain Community Foundation this week teamed up and bought the closed Audrain Community Hospital on the courthouse steps for $1 million, and hoping against hope they can convince Boone Health to get a critical access hospital up and running in Mexico after that one's been closed for a few years.
And recall that Boone Health and I guess the county agreed to sort of enter into some kind of a discovery agreement, right? Back in the winter. So, yeah.
So hopefully moving
They're
the
taking
right
a look,
way. And then
kicking the tires over there. Yep.
Then maybe something similar could happen at the hospital in Fulton that's closed as well.
Absolutely.
And our other winner would be back with the Redbirds, Tommy Pham. Hit a grand slam pinch hit with the Cardinals the other night when he came back from the White Sox. They beat the Rangers 8-1, and that was that big three-team trade. We're glad to have Tommy back as a Redbird.
That's a big deal. The boy came out right.
Sure don't want to play for the White Sox right now.
That grand slam was amazing, wasn't it?
The place went crazy. John Rooney's call was incredible, but John's spot on about that Mexico hospital. That is a huge deal for that community.
Yeah. Hey, there was a winner I missed last week, and I want to recognize. Speaking of Boone Health, they got a $475,000 grant. The Boone County Commission gave them some ARPA funds, and it's a big deal because it increases the capacity, the patient flow, helps with cardiology overflow for folks that are eligible to. They don't need the most intense therapy, but they're not ready for regular floor, sort of that intermediate type thing. Updated monitoring systems. So that's great for the residents who may use that facility at some point for cardiac care. After all, it's the leading cause of death in America, and we're no exception here in mid-Missouri. So shout out for Boone Health that got that expanded PCU help there. In addition, you already stole my winners with all the Olympians. Okay, you got that.
Sorry about you.
That's okay. We need to just double down on that because it's so great, and it was so rewarding to see the great performance and the comeback for Simone Biles especially. The loser of the week is Kamala Harris. Her ambition has forsaken integrity. And for her to be a flip-flopper like this without explanation, without, hey, I've reviewed the situation. When I got in office, I understand it's a different situation. It's disingenuous. It's deceitful. And that's sad to see a human being who has such opportunity to lead, to, break the glass ceiling, to do all, to not say and stand by her record and run on that. But for pure political ambition to do that, that is a serious, capital L-O-S-E-R. Brian Hauswirth.
All right, thank you so much, Randy. By the way, I will have a story about the ARPA money for Boone Hospital on Monday morning here on the Eagle, so that's a big deal. I've got 3 winners, no losers this week. First winner is going to be a guy, John will know this name, and our News Radio 950 listeners will know it as well. Donald Webb, 85-year-old Donald Webb has passed away. He was one of the first African Americans to play at Jefferson City High School. It was a huge deal, and he played with a guy named Mel West. But Mr. Webb has passed away. His funeral is going to be tomorrow. I'm going to have a story on Monday. I've been doing a little more research into him. There is a huge, basically it's a plaque. I was at Oscars yesterday after my dental appointment. Ironically, I was looking at, I didn't know he had passed away, but they have a big plaque of him at Oscars, and I ended up learning while I was there eating a meal that he had passed away. Played for the Boston Patriots in the AFL, which was kind of the American Football League, a big deal. Later became the New England Patriots. Great football player, one of the best that's ever come out of Jeff City, but maybe better known after football for working in the Secretary of State's office. So if you're planning to go to the funeral, get there early tomorrow. It is going to be packed, and that will be at 11. That will be at the Trimble Funeral Homes, and they are going to live stream it as well because so many people are expected to come. Second winner of the week, Kevin Kelly. He works at News Radio 950 KWOS in the 30th anniversary of the popular Coaches Show.
Legendary Kevin Kelly.
Exactly. It's
Hall of Famer Kevin Kelly.
Hall of Famer, and 30 years of the show. He's been doing it, and they're going to do the show tomorrow. It's his 47th year of broadcasting, and Bob Pretty's going to join him. They're going to talk about the 1904 Summer Olympics in St. Louis, but he's going to do that again for 30 years for the show, 47 for Kevin Kelly, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning on News Radio 950 KWS. And last but not least, in one winner here, but 3 names, Bob Holden, Peter Kinder, and Catherine Hanaway. John and I are one of the...
What, no Rod Jetton?
Jetton was Speaker Pro Tem. We probably would include him as well. But what the media sometimes forgets is that things did get done back in the day, quote unquote. And we were there and we saw it, John. That sales tax holiday is a big deal, and a lot of people are going to be helped tomorrow. I mean, we got sales taxes as high in some of these counties as 10%. All state and local sales taxes are exempt. And if you're wondering why they are, it's because of the 3 people I mentioned. Democratic Governor Bob Holden, Republican Senator Peter Kinder, and Speaker Catherine Hanaway. I was there when they signed the bill. It was at Chesterfield Mall in 2004. That mall's still there, but it's basically abandoned. But Bob Holden, they signed it, and they disagreed on a lot of stuff, but they did sign that bill, and that was one. They also, by the way, saved the State Farm jobs at the time in Columbia about the same time as well. So they did quite a few things together, but they are my winners of the week as well.
I do have one more winner, Jennifer Bukowski, which, of course, if you've been listening to the show or to the radio station for any amount of time, you're not unfamiliar with the name Jennifer Bukowski. Mm-hmm. But this weekend, Sunday morning at 10 a.m., the return of the Jennifer Bukowski show to 93.9 The Eagle will be live. So the Jennifer Bukowski show will be on every Sunday from 10 a.m. to noon. And, of course, it's a revival of the OG Jennifer Bukowski show. So I would highly encourage everyone to tune into that. It'll be fun.
That'll be a lot of fun.
It'll be a great show, and it's a great Sunday morning lineup.
Yeah.
You've got Mike and Al Germond on Sunday morning, 8 to 10, taking calls, and Jennifer at 10 o'clock just does a fabulous job. And
you don't hear local great live radio on Sunday morning.
No, but you do.
Anywhere except here.
And 93.9 The Eagle, and people call in from all over, but for Al and Mike Murphy's show. But Jennifer does a fantastic job, and I'm really excited to hear her show. I've been to her law office. I don't know how many people have been in there. Not as
lots of trouble, Brian. Sorry, you want to share?
Not as a client. No, not as a client.
You threw that one out there.
Mike Ferguson, when he was doing a talk show, actually invited me. She's got a television set in that law office.
She is a tech head from way back.
I'm telling you, the television station over at her law office, it rivals anything I've seen anywhere else. It is really, really nice, and she does a great job. I'm glad she's going to be back on. Be good to hear her voice.
All right. Hey, we're going to talk about a great event coming up here in the area. from great people doing great things. That's what's happening tomorrow and about our youth's mental health. Joining us now, Kat Schudel. You hear her with Cosmo and Kat on Y107, and Tanya Heath, outreach and strategic communicator. Kat is a professional speaker, life coach, great on-air talent, and she's the much better half of Cosmo and Kat. Don't tell him I said that, though, okay, Kat?
Oh, I'm telling him.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. Oh, I'll never hear the end of it. Hey, tell us about what's happening tomorrow, Kat.
Oh, my goodness. I am so excited. We have a youth mental health summit happening, and it is going to be absolutely incredible. This is the opportunity for anyone, because we all have mental health things. You know, I think every single person has that, but what we can do to empower, I think the most important thing we could do as adults is empower the next generations and help them be as successful as they possibly can, simply by sharing our experiences and the things that we've learned and the wisdom we've gained throughout our lives, and help them get there faster, you know, with less resources and with less pain. And so this is an opportunity where several of us are taking to just empower parents, adults, and even youth if they want to come, you know, like anyone in the community, with tools to be able to just be prepared instead of living reactive, dealing with mental health issues, to be proactive with it. And so we want to give them resiliency to be able to grow up and know how to deal with the things that they're facing with the trauma that they've had throughout their lives, you know, how to be able to deal with that, how to be able to overcome things and become their greatest selves.
All right. Kat describes what I think will be a fabulous opportunity for all of you who have kids, have anything to do with kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, and really getting some tools. It is what it's called, the ultimate parent's guide to youth mental health. And Tanya, tell us about, is this going to cost me an arm and a leg? Do I have to drop a $50 bill in the bucket as I come in? What's the story?
We made it free and open to the public because we know that access is an issue. And we have 4 amazing speakers who are going to speak from 2 to 4 tomorrow at Community United Methodist Church, which is 3301 West Broadway. Doors open at 1:30. And we just wanted to make it easy for parents to get, you know, the skills they need, the tools they need to help their child and their scholar have the best start to the school year.
You know, I think we saw so much exaggeration of what has been a rising problem among young people: anxiety, depression, suicide, and suicidal attempt rates. I mean, this predated COVID, but COVID didn't help things with lockdowns and lack of socialization. I think we're still feeling the scars of that, aren't we, Kat?
Oh, absolutely. And it's gotten to a point where kids aren't sure how to in a healthy way deal with things that cause the depression and the anxiety. And a lot of them aren't even educated enough to know where it comes from.
You're right. And I guess to go towards, I want to talk too darkly about our community and its public safety, but look, you're a life coach, Kat. You're going to have a minister, a trauma therapist, a therapist and educator. Isn't it true that if we can get a handle on healthy coping with challenges, which all of us have as youth, healthy family dynamics, it's all, it takes a village kind of an idea. It really does, including the nucleus of a parent. But when parents aren't there, divorces, single moms, single dads, if we don't get a handle on the root causes, we're going to continue to be reporting on shootings and knifings and violence and murders in our area, aren't we? I mean, this is where it starts. Let's get a foundational approach to it. That's the way I view it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And it starts from the top. I mean, we, just like a corporation, it starts from the leadership. And we as adults, as parents, as teachers, as, just older, anyone who has anyone younger than them, which is pretty much everybody, we are the example. We are what they see. And if we're not getting the tools ourselves and honestly working through our trauma ourselves, then how are we going to help them be able to do the same? And so we're just going to continue to pass down the unhealthy ways of living that are going to cause, everything that you mentioned.
Well, and Kat, I know we're running out of time here, but I couldn't let you leave this morning without congratulating you and Cosmo for your Marconi nomination for Small Market Personality of the Year. And for anyone listening who doesn't know what a Marconi is, it's our industry's equivalent of like a Grammy.
Yep.
So congratulations to you and Cosmo, Kat.
So
thank you so much.
So, folks, if you want to come out and hear from a Marconi nominated communicator, professional speaker, life coach, and of course you hear.
I hope your rate went up after that.
Tanya, can you get the guys to install some wider door frames? We got to get okay. No, that's not Kat's nature. I've spent time socially with Kat, and she is the most down to earth person who's been there, done that. And I'll share it with you in terms of life struggles.
Yeah.
Cassie Thomas, Tasha Tolson, Emily Arth. And Tanya Heath for organizing this. Thanks for all of what you've done, and both of you